welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'm very happy to share what I know on this topic. And, you are in the right place if you have classic thyroid symptoms, but your labs look normal. You are in the right place if you are on thyroid hormone replacement, right? If you have a diagnosis like Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism, and you are on thyroid hormone replacement, but still don't feel your best, this class is for you if you are tired of supplements and detoxes and food restrictions. This class is for you if you are done working at your health like it's a job, right? This is for you if you are tired of being tired and foggy and achy and bloated and constipated, anxious, depressed, sleep deprived, heavy and losing your hair. And if you are looking for a natural way to resolve your symptoms. And if you are frustrated and confused about your options for doing that. So please put in the chat one symptom that you would like to resolve. One symptom that you would like to resolve. If you could resolve any symptom that relates to your thyroid health, what would it be? And wouldn't it be nice if you could wake up each day with the energy to live your life? Dragging tiredness, says Sue. Wouldn't it be nice if you could stop relying on meds or supplements or regimens to feel better? Wouldn't it be nice if you could spend your time and your resources on your passions and not on your health struggles? Wouldn't it be nice if you could handle your stress better and get off of that emotional roller coaster? Wouldn't it be nice if you finally felt like your normal self again? The way you know you should feel. So I'm going to share with you the best way to optimize your thyroid health that no one is talking about. Yeah. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and put a thumbs up in the chat. So let me tell you about my client, Melissa. So Melissa is trained as a nutritional therapy practitioner, and she found me through an NTP forum. I was trained as a nutritional therapy practitioner before I started to work with the mind through advanced neural retraining. So she had a diagnosis of Hashimoto's. She also had back pain, digestive issues, sleep issues, and hair shedding. And after we worked together for a couple of months, she reported, in the last 2 months, I have noted steady improvements. My hair is falling out less. My sleep is good. I feel good. And constipation is only an occasional problem. Months after we finished working together, she got back to me and let me know this summer I did some blood work, and for the first time in 3 years, my thyroid numbers are all in range. I thought that was significant. And this was in the middle of one of the biggest stresses of our lives. That was confirmation for me that my physiology was following the work we had done on the emotions. So put yes in the chat if that sounds like a good result to you. If you would like results like that. So about me, I'm a neural retraining specialist. I work with the subconscious mind. My focus for the last 5 years has been chronic health issues. And over that time, I've also worked with several thyroid patients that were referred to me. Some who were referred to me, and some, who came on their own looking for help with chronic health issues, and just happened to, be in that thyroid spectrum. I support women with low thyroid function, whether it's Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, or whether you just have classic low thyroid symptoms but no diagnosis. I help women over 40 to regain their health, their thyroid health, by harnessing the power of their minds. So, I know what it's like to be where you are, because in my 40s, my health, issues looked a lot like yours. I was exhausted and achy. I had joint pain. I was bloated. I had cluster headaches, a dysregulated immune system, multiple sensitivities, a very low tolerance to stress. Poor digestion, probably fit the criteria for irritable bowel, heavy, irregular menstrual cycles. My hair was falling out, and that made me think, gee, could this be my thyroid? I had no idea what was going on. I went to see my doctor, ran some labs, and I was told it's not your thyroid. Your numbers look okay. Like, look somewhere else, but no real direction. And so over the years, every once in a while, things would get bad enough that I would go and seek out a new doctor, a new practitioner, a new approach. And over the years, I was told different things like, oh, it looks like you have adrenal fatigue, or, oh, it looks like you have, these root causes. Many, many labs were run over the years, and many, many explanations were given to me for why I felt the way I did. High mold counts, chronic Lyme, nutritional deficiencies, methylation issues, genetic SNPs, dysregulated microbiome, right? Many, many, many reasons were given. But every time I got these results back, I thought, this is not the root cause, right? They felt that these were root causes, but I felt it's just one more symptom of what is, how my body is not able to function at its best anymore. I couldn't understand why a person with a pretty healthy lifestyle, a clean diet, regular exercise, and who even meditated sometimes could have issues in like every system of the body. And I really felt like there had to be a root cause underlying all these other things that they were finding. It's just, yeah, I know that's very unconventional sounding, but that's just how I felt. And it took me 10 or 12 years to figure out what was really going on with me, and longer to receive the training and develop a process to address it. So what I want you to know from my experience is that there is a simpler way to get to the root causes of your chronic health issues, and it is complementary to anything else that you were doing to support your health. If anything about that story resonates with you, type yes in the chat. And if you would like to get to the true root causes of your thyroid symptoms in less than 10 years, put yes in the chat. So after years of searching and learning and working with hundreds of clients, I'm about to reveal the true source of the problem as I understand it, and why you are still exhausted, foggy, anxious, or depressed, wired and tired, with digestive issues, constipation, holding on to excess weight, losing your hair, feeling cold all the time, despite everything that you have tried, right? I know that you are smart people. I know that you're committed, that you have invested time, money, resources, and energy trying to get your health back. And you have not wasted your time, right? But we need to look deeper, right? In my estimation, we need to go deeper. And what I'm about to say may sound very obvious at a surface level, but given that not one single professional I consulted explored this connection to the depth that we are about to explore it today, please don't dismiss it, right? For many of my clients, this is the missing piece in their healing journey. This is a thing that finally moves the needle for them after they've tried so many different things. So let me share my screen with you. How can I do that? Oh yes, right here. Button. All right. Here we go. Share. And here we are. Ooh. Okay. So let me tell you about another client of mine, Josie. Josie had Hashimoto's. She also was struggling with infertility, anxiety, stomach issues, leaky gut, sensitivities, eczema, and she had tried all the things, traditional medicine, functional medicine. She was leaning more on acupuncture and Chinese herbs and things that she found were more natural approaches by the time that she met me. She heard about my work on an infertility podcast where I had been a guest. And after we worked together for a time, she reported, I have Hashimoto's, and 2 months after I started advanced neural retraining sessions, all my thyroid levels were back in normal range, though I still had some antibodies. And since then, my fertility hormones have improved over what they were 6 months ago. Josie was a candidate for IVF, and so her fertility numbers were being monitored, right? And so she had baseline numbers taken, and she knew that after we had worked together for a while, maybe 4 months, that her fertility numbers were actually looking better. And this is very unusual for women over 40. Josie was a woman over 40. So what was happening here, right? Remember that infertility is related to reproductive hormones, and thyroid issues are hormonal issues, right? So let's talk about the thyroid stress connection, right? Stress matters. You may already know this, right? Stress matters, but it goes beyond what you have been told thus far. You may have noticed yourself that stress impairs thyroid function. You may have noticed that when you are under stress, that your thyroid symptoms get worse. There are many types of stress, right? When we talk about stress, often we're talking about emotional stress, but there is also infectious sources of stress, physical sources of stress, like if you've had an injury, if you were in a car accident, if you gave birth, if you had a baby, or a surgery, right? So there are physical stresses, and then there are also toxic stresses. So maybe a chemical exposure or a mold exposure. So think about this, right? This is part of what we do in the program that I've developed is we make a timeline of when the onset of our thyroid symptoms and any points along the way where our symptoms got worse, right? Where there was an inflection point. So think about what was going on for you in the months to years leading up to the onset of your thyroid symptoms. Sometimes we recognize, like, yes, I was under a period of stress there, right? There was something going on in my life that was stressful. But you may also recognize that there were 2 or 3 things that maybe came together like a perfect storm right before you developed your symptoms or got your diagnosis. And it may be a combination of things, right? There may have been emotional stresses, but maybe you also had an infectious stress, or you had an exposure to mold, or something physical happened to you, like a surgery, right? So of those stresses, we're going to focus on emotional stress for the rest of this talk, because for most people, they are getting help with the physical, the toxic, the infectious stresses from their functional medicine practitioner or whoever they are seeing. But the emotional stresses are often only explored to a surface level, right? So emotional stress can be the most significant contributor to stress. Emotional stress can be broken down into 2 buckets. One is current life stress. this is mostly what's discussed when people are told, you should try to mitigate the stress in your life. They're talking about your current life stress, your work stress, your relationship stress, your stress around finances or time, or whatever is going on in your life. So these are the known stressors. These are the stresses that we feel. But there is another bucket. And for some people, certain people, and this is what we're trying to ferret out in the quiz, like Sue and I were talking about at the beginning. For certain people, the hidden stressors, which are comprised of past life events, adverse past life events, we could say. This is another bucket of stress that is not recognized. This is the stress you don't feel because you've habituated to it. It's become part of the decor, right? For certain people, like the people who take my quiz on stress factors and identify, they check a lot of these boxes under the first couple of factors that are listed there. For certain people that fit that profile, hidden stressors have the greatest physiological impact on your health. And this is generally unrecognized. So what I want you to understand is that early life stress, and it's not just about early life stress, but stressful events in your life have an impact on you. But early life stress is special because when we are young, let's say less than the age 18 or age 21, these early life stresses change the way our nervous system works, right? When you were a child, your nervous system is being developed. Your habitual or conditioned responses to things are being developed. And when we have early life stress, this changes the way our nervous system works and diminishes our tolerance for stress for the rest of our lives. How do we know this? Because in the 1990s, there was a study called the ACEs study, Adverse Childhood Experiences Study. This is a study done by the Centers for Disease Control and Kaiser Permanente. Type ACEs in the chat if you have heard of this study before. This was a large study conducted over several years. Kaiser Permanente is a West Coast health plan. They enrolled 17,000 adults in this study. It's a very simple study. It was really just a survey. Basically, it said, which of these adverse experiences did you have before the age of 18? And then it listed 10 things. 10 things. It's not a complete list of all the possible adverse experiences you could have. It was a sampling. And so when you take this assessment, you kind of check off the things that you experienced before the age of 18, such as, were you ever separated from a parent because of divorce or jail time or military deployment or for some other reason? Were you ever subject to emotional, mental, or physical abuse? Or did you witness abuse in the family? Right? So you check off the things that apply to you. And what they found was that if you checked off 4 out of 10 of those items or more, this was correlated with lifelong increased risk for chronic health conditions. Emotional health conditions, right? Like depression, like anxiety, mental health conditions, addictions, chronic health conditions, like thyroid health, like autoimmune conditions like cancer, right? And early death from any cause. So 4 or more, if you got 4 points out of 10 or higher, there was this lifelong impact that came with that. And so we have known this since the 1990s. But it hasn't changed the way that we practice healthcare in this country. Why? I think it's because we just didn't really have the tools to do anything about it. I mean, we could recognize it. We could recognize that there is this correlation, that there's something about suffering these adverse experiences early in life that changes the trajectory of our health for the rest of our life. But we didn't have the tools or techniques to mitigate that. So early adverse events, what we learned from this study is that early adverse events are major contributors to our ability to handle stress, right? And a diminished ability to handle stress makes you more susceptible to a stress overload, right? So now let's talk about physiological impacts of prolonged stress. You've probably heard of the stress response, right? The fight, flight, or freeze response. If you've ever been told that you are sympathetic dominant, that means that your nervous system is in the fight, flight, freeze response too much of the time. This is what I was describing when I said to you, when my health tanked, I recognized that I had a really low tolerance for stress. Any little stressor took me down, right? My heart would start to palpitate, or, I'd have, whatever, a physiological response to that I recognized was like out of proportion to what was happening. So when you recognize that you feel like you are in that fight, flight, freeze response too much of the time, or you've been told, you're sympathetic dominant, that means that you are stuck in a stress response. And this, by definition, inhibits your ability to heal, because the opposite of the stress response is the relaxation response. The relaxation response is the rest, digest, and heal response. No healing can occur outside of the relaxation response. So for the person who is stuck in a stress response too much of the time, our ability to maintain our health is reduced. And if you already have a chronic health condition, right, you need to be in the rest, digest, and heal response even more than the healthy person, because the healthy person is just trying to maintain. You're trying to gain, you're trying to get back to a state of health that you once enjoyed. And so what I want you to understand is that when the body is subject to a prolonged period of stress, this leads to something called the cell danger response. Let me show you how this works. When we have prolonged stress, and remember, stress can include infectious, toxic, and physical factors as well, but for people who now are now understanding that their known levels of stress may be significant, as well as those hidden sources of stress from your past life, this results in a response by your cells, by the tissues, cells, and the organs of the body that's like a semi-hibernation state. So when the fire alarm, right, the stress alarm has been going off in the body for too long, right, for weeks and months and years and maybe even decades, the cells of your body can selectively choose to shut down. They stop energy production. The mitochondria stop making ATP, which is the fuel source of the cell. And so that cell stops doing its job, basically hunkers down and is waiting for that stress to be resolved. It's waiting for the fire to be put out, right? But for many of us, that's just not happening. And so this leads to something called cellular hypothyroidism or functional hypothyroidism, which is a state where cells selectively downregulate their thyroid hormone uptake. And this is why you can have, people with Hashimoto's or with low thyroid function can have different constellations of symptoms, right? Depending on sort of what's affected. And this also explains why thyroid hormone supplementation is not the easy fix that it should be, right? Because when the cells have closed their door, to thyroid hormone, you can push more thyroid hormone into the system, into the circulation, but it doesn't mean that it's going to get to where it needs to go to have a physiological effect. And what can happen is you end up with hyperthyroid and hypothyroid symptoms at the same time. So this leads to a new perspective, right? When we understand things from a different, in a different way, this can lead to a new perspective, a new understanding. So thyroid health is not just about what is going on with your thyroid. And that is why thyroid labs often don't reflect how you feel. Your thyroid labs can look okay, right? But you still feel like garbage. We need to look deeper. We need to look at what's going on at the cellular level. The cell danger response is a state of cellular shutdown. The cell danger response is a sign of prolonged stress. We were never meant to live. Stress was supposed to be like short term, right? The cell danger response was supposed to be short term. We were never meant to live like this, but for many of us, we are. And I would say that the cell danger response is also a sign that there is an accumulation of lifetime stress, that hidden stress that I was talking about, that can be resolved through a mind-body approach. So when we understand this problem in a new way, new solutions become possible, right? Available, without the need for more supplements or meds, diet restrictions, and cleanses, like I was saying before. Because where does stress live? It lives in the mind, not just the conscious mind. Conscious mind is aware of your current life stress, but the subconscious mind, right? This is where all those hidden stressors are stored, this lifetime accumulation. And we can work, thanks to new techniques and innovations, we can work with the mind to resolve layers of accumulated stress. Now, we have the tools now. So let me tell you about my client, Dr. Kelly. Dr. Kelly is an amazing person. She's a really special client of mine. She is trained as a doctor, Western medicine doctor. She trained again as a naturopath. And again, she got a third degree in clinical nutrition. So very well versed. She basically knows everything, right? She knows everything that can be done to address her chronic health issues and those of her patients. But when she came to see me, she wanted to work on her Hashimoto's and in particular, her fatigue. She was very exhausted and didn't have the energy to, to practice and, be there for her kids and her husband. She was recommended to me by a functional medicine practitioner, and she had tried everything, really everything. She had tried several other methods of brain retraining. Her fatigue lifted pretty quickly after we started sessions, and she was so impressed. She was in the middle of writing a book with thyroid expert Dr. Eric Balkavage. He's a functional medicine thyroid expert. And she was in the middle of writing this book, The Thyroid Debacle. And once we started to work together, she was so stunned by how effective this was. She said, I write about this in my book. And so she included the method that I use in the chapter about emotional fitness. This is what Dr. Kelly had to say about her work. And you can hear about all of these stories on my podcast if you tune into my podcast. But anyway, she said, if I hadn't met you, I'd probably still be down this rabbit hole trying to chase things that weren't the foundational issue. After our sessions, I felt this release in my fatigue. I stopped taking a lot of the supplementation. I got to stop doing extraneous things, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off of me. It's a very common feedback that I get after doing sessions for people. They often say, I feel lighter. So that is why I'm referring people to you and why I continue to work on all kinds of things, not just chronic fatigue. We are getting to the root cause, the core. This is Dr. Kelly again. I refer to Madeline all the time because I say, well, I can get your glutathione status back. I can fix your B vitamins. I can help you optimize your gut. But if you understand the cell danger response, right, there are people who've been working on their gut for 10 years and it's not changing because if the cell danger response is turned on, your gut is just not going to get better. You are just spinning your wheels. So that's Dr. Kelly Halderman. So let's review, right? What have we talked about? Stress impairs thyroid function. Most people have some recognition of that already. Emotional stress is often the major contributor. Your emotional stress load is comprised of two parts, your current life stress and past life stress. Early life stress in particular reduces our tolerance for stress for the rest of our lives, right? Making us even more susceptible to the effects of stress. We may not feel our stress overload. May not be fully aware of it, right? But it is still impacting us and it is inhibiting our ability to heal. And we can turn this all around now by working with the mind, the subconscious mind. So how do we resolve this, right? We need a method, a revolutionary new method to resolve the impact of stressful events easily, quickly, and gently. We need a more advanced method than the basic methods of neural retraining. A lot of people who come to me say, oh, I've tried neural retraining before, and I just didn't have the time to repeat all those scripts and those visualizations and, do all those exercises for, hours a day, for months and years. Well, they are describing basic methods of neural retraining. Basic methods of neural retraining are trying to work through the conscious mind to try to make a change in the subconscious mind. And that is a long, long road. What we need is a method that works directly with the subconscious mind because that is where the hidden layers of stress are. We need a method that is faster than EMDR. You may have heard of EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprogramming. We need a method that goes deeper than EFT, also known as tapping, where you tap on these acupressure points to try to resolve emotional intensity around a phrase or an event. We need a method that can be done as live sessions over Zoom with a practitioner because that makes them fully customizable. We need a method that is also available as recorded sessions because recorded sessions, such as in a program, are convenient and affordable. They're available to you 24/7. You don't have to get on my calendar, you don't have to schedule. The best, though, is a combination of both. Some live sessions with a recorded program. So what does this mean for you? What can you do about this? I want you to know that you can reverse the impact of a lifetime of accumulated stress. You don't just have to live with it, right? Brain retraining sessions can help you to resolve these layers of stress one at a time. Each session is resolving another layer of stress, and it is a cumulative effect of multiple sessions, that leads to the changes in your health picture, right? We need this method that harnesses the power of the subconscious mind because the subconscious mind actually has a self-healing capacity. And we capitalize on this with the method that I use. We need a step-by-step exploration of multiple, right, different kinds of stress factors. We need to come at this from different angles, right, so that we can address, again, the different layers upon layers of accumulated stress. These include things like negative, stressful thoughts and emotions, triggers for anxiety, or worry loops, or rumination, or catastrophizing, painful memories related to anything really, but we can start with your health journey, right? Because for someone who has one or more chronic conditions, there are painful memories around just exactly what you've been through around your health. We can work with topics around current life stress, and we can also address stressful behaviors and traits. This is factor 2 in the quiz. Things like people pleasing or perfectionism or being the fixer, the nurturer, the chameleon, or the high achiever, right? These are stressful ways to live, and they are a contributing factor as well. So a little bit about this method that I use, that I am certified in. It is a meditative method. This method is gentler than EMDR. Many people have come to me having done EMDR sessions, thinking that this is the most advanced way to work through traumatic memories or painful emotional memories. And I would say that that used to be true in 30 or 40 years ago, like in the 1980s when EMDR first was introduced. But now we are into the next generation of those techniques. And the MAP method is the next generation. Goes deeper than tapping and is faster, way faster than talk therapy. It is based on verbal instructions that harness the power of the subconscious mind to heal itself, as I said. And each session, right, is resolving a layer of stress, so that, through the process of moving through a program, multiple layers of accumulated stress can be resolved. And we start to see changes, right? First, on an emotional level, start to feel more relaxed, more centered, less impacted by things that would have been stressful or irritating for you. And then we start to see changes on a mental and behavioral level, like there's less of compulsion to be that people pleaser or that perfectionist or whatever it is that you do that adds to the stress in your life. And finally, right, once we are more calm, once those worry loops have quieted, once the triggers for anxiety have been neutralized and we are feeling calmer, more settled, less stressed, then, right, because of those changes, we have set the stage for healing to occur. And so the physical changes follow. They tend to lag. This is definitely a process, not a miracle. This is why what I've developed is a 12-week program. So we have a program that includes 12 modules over 12 weeks. Every topic, each module is around a topic. Every topic has a lesson. It's an audio lesson that you listen to. Then there's a journal exercise. There's a prompt for you to explore the lesson or the topic for yourself. You are prompted to come up with, how you've experienced this in your life. And basically, you are making a list of events or topics that you can use in the brain retraining sessions that accompany that module. So after you've listened to the lesson, you've done the journal exercise, then you have a list of topics. You are given instructions for rank ordering those topics, and then you can take the top 3 topics and do the brain retraining sessions for that week. Ideally, you're doing 3 sessions a week. Each session takes about 35 to 45 minutes. So you can do this from the privacy of your own home. You just need an internet connection. And also included in the program are 3 private sessions with me over Zoom. These are 90-minute sessions. And so you can schedule one of these sessions each month. I also include as a bonus 4 extra weeks of access because I know that, not everyone has time consistently. We get busy, we get sick, we go on vacation, we have other priorities. And so there are these extra buffer weeks that are built in so that you can fully utilize the program. And there's also access to groups coaching sessions with me twice a month and a private Facebook community for everyone who's participating in the program. So as I said, the benefits, right, first are on an emotional level. then a mental behavioral level, and then finally the physical level. We talked about some of these: improved tolerance for stress, better sleep, improved immune function, hormonal balance. And then when we get to the physical level, right, a reduction in symptom frequency, severity, duration. Also, you are less likely, right? We are kind of turning back. Remember how we talked about early life stress affects you for the rest of your life. It makes you susceptible, more likely to develop chronic health conditions on an emotional, mental, and physical level. Well, with this program, with this process, we are undoing all of that, right? So you are less likely to develop a new condition. And we know that for people who have Hashimoto's, for example, that is an autoimmune condition. People with one autoimmune condition often develop other autoimmune conditions over time. So let's talk about who benefits the most from a program like this, right? Who tends to be the most receptive to this method? If any of these characteristics applies to you, then you would be in that category of being more receptive than the average person, right? Are you an emotional person? Do you feel your emotions quite keenly? Are you a sensitive person, or what's known as an HSP, highly sensitive person? Or are you an empath, right? Even more sensitive. Do you feel like you are a creative or an intuitive person? Or do you have, or have you had, a strong meditation practice at one time, or a strong prayer practice, right? These are assets for this kind of program because, as I said, it's a meditative method. So if you already have a strong meditation practice or prayer practice, right, you are adept at getting to that meditative place, which is where we need to be for these sessions to work. Let's talk about my client, Frances. Frances was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, also a patient of Dr. Eric Balcavage, and came to me after working with him for about a year and a half. She tried all the things, and then we did several months of sessions, and her symptoms improved, and she was able to reduce her thyroid meds. And she was pretty impressed as well. She said, I've had thyroid issues for 10 years now, and worked with Dr. Balcavage for a couple of years. After our sessions, I am taking much less thyroid medication, about half, and I have much better energy. Basically, every symptom has improved 50 to 80%. It's dramatically different, and the positive impacts have stayed. That was her experience, and she talks about her experience with me on my podcast, so you can listen to her story. So by now, you're probably wondering, could this approach work for me, right? Could this mind-body approach work for me? Well, I want you to think about how long you have had thyroid issues. How many things you have tried. And has anyone ever talked about an approach like this with you? Are you ready? I know, this is not for everyone, right? Are you the person who's ready to address your thyroid symptoms in a new way? Are you looking for a natural way to get your health back? Are you ready to roll back the effects of early life stress or of stress throughout your life that are keeping you in this stuck place, right? These are questions that you can only answer for yourself. But if you want to explore this further, I recommend that you take the quiz that is available on my website. Perhaps you have already, but this is a quiz, an assessment really, that helps you to connect the dots for yourself. Because you may think, well, I don't think I fall into the category of someone who had adverse childhood experiences. I mean, that's what I thought, right? And then I took the ACEs quiz, 10 questions, and I was like, oh, I got a 5. I scored a 5 on that inventory. And we know so much more about adverse childhood experiences in the years since the 1990s, right? Our understanding of this has come a long, long way. And so this is what I've incorporated in developing my own quiz, for you to take. There are no right or wrong answers. It's just an opportunity for you to see for yourself. Do I seem to be taking a lot of these off? Yes, I am. Factor 1, factor 2, factor 3, factor 4, right? So you start to see for yourself how these things kind of link together, and to recognize for yourself, yes, I think there may be more to this than I realized, right? I think I may be one of these people with an accumulation of stress that's been keeping me stuck. And if that's you, and you want to talk about this further with me, please take me up on this invitation to book a free stress assessment call, right? This is a 20-minute call where we can talk about what you discovered through taking the quiz. We can assess the factors that are contributing to your stress load. We can talk about the appropriateness of a neural retraining approach for you and the best way for you to get started, because not everyone is interested in a program. Not everyone is, has that, do it yourself kind of oomph, to take advantage of a program. And so for some people, they just want to do live sessions, and that is perfectly fine. So this is my website, tcneuralretraining.solutions. This is, I actually have two websites. This is the website that is focused on thyroid health. You can schedule a free call here. You can take the quiz by clicking on this button here, and you'll get the quiz via your email. Very simple. So let me tell you quickly about my client, Nikki. I know the time is flying by. Nikki, also diagnosed with Hashimoto's, also a patient of Dr. Eric Balkavage. He referred her to me. She wanted to address, she had come a long way working with Dr. Balkavage, but she still felt that she had a lot of anxiety. She wanted to address that, and lingering thyroid symptoms. She had tried neural retraining, another method before. It had helped some, but after several sessions with me, her symptoms improved and her anxiety was at an all-time low. How low? Well, this is what Nikki said in our podcast. I feel at peace with everything. Even dumb stuff that my husband does that I'd usually be irritated with, I can let go of it more easily. My aura ring shows that my numbers are much more stable now. The graph used to be like a roller coaster. It almost feels weird not to be worried about the little stuff. So her anxiety was a lot lower. After we'd worked together for a while, she had her thyroid labs run again, some months later, and she got back to me and sent me a voice memo, which I won't play for you now, but this is the important part of it. I just received some blood work from my PCP. My TSH is the lowest it's ever been. Not only is it within normal range, but is actually within optimal range. I feel like I'm back to myself, no longer anxious, no longer suffering from insomnia, dry skin, and all of the other issues I talked about in the podcast. So here's Nikki. She is not like Dr. Kelly, right? She does not have 3 medical and nutritional degrees. She's just an ordinary person, a lay person. But it's interesting to me that Nikki came to the same conclusions as Dr. Kelly. I wish I had known about advanced neural retraining a long time ago. I feel like I wasted a lot of time and money doing all those different protocols. I feel like whenever your body is stuck in fight or flight, if you were trying to do those detoxes and heavy metal and parasite cleanses, it's a waste. If your body is stuck in the stress state, you can take $500 in supplements, and I don't think you're going to get anywhere. So what about you? Do you feel like you can resolve the stress that is blocking your healing capacity? Are you ready to get your health back in a new way, right? Do you want to feel more energized and stop supplementing like Dr. Kelly? Do you want to lose the aches, the digestive distress, the constipation like Melissa? Do you want to cut back on your meds and resolve symptoms like Francis, or be calmer, less stressed, and sleep better like